One. Welcome back to the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. We are, well, literally a month away from another huge AEW pay-per-view. And before we get our guest on, I have to talk to my AEW analyst from the Estates, Mr. Gary Joe. How are we, sir?
Not too bad. A typical fall day over here, but doing pretty well. And I'm very excited for this amazing guest that we have, for us this afternoon.
Indeed, me too. Very excited. Let's get on with introducing our guest. So there's a lot of important people in AEW, not just the wrestlers, but people out where we don't always see them from time to time. And this one is one of those. He's the man behind the music of AEW. It's Mr. Mikey Rukus. How are you?
Doing good. Adam, Gary, right?
That is.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for having me on. I'm really bad with names and I'm really trying to do better at remembering names. So yes, thank you for having me on.
No, thank you so much for taking out the time of your schedule to come on. Like we just mentioned, AEW Full Gear coming up in about a month's time. 2024 for AEW has been, quite frankly, amazing. Everything that's happened so far. Obviously, another huge show over here in the UK that just finished in All In. Coming back next year for Forbidden Door. All going also Australia for Grand Slam. Just how much of excitement has it been for you personally, and obviously for AEW?
It's been a very interesting time, very exciting time. I liken it to riding on a lightning bolt. Like that's really the best way to describe it. Ever since I joined the company in 2019, I was you have a theory of how things are going to go when you get to that point in your career, and then everything is completely sped up, maybe 50 to 100 times. So it's like grabbing onto a lightning bolt and just hanging on for dear life and learning along the way. So a lot of on the job training, and it kind of brought us to this point now where our growth has been exponential, and I've been excited to take part in that and honored to be a part of it the entire time.
And just a quick one on that. Are you surprised just how quickly it has gone? I mean, 29, obviously, you do expect the growth and everything like that, but this has kind of been like just a massive growth in terms of how quick 5 years to do everything AEW has done in 5 years, the big new TV deal, the superstars that they've brought in, what they're putting together right now is quite frankly incredible.
Yeah, and it's pretty crazy because you don't see that type of growth in companies as a whole. Thankfully, there are an amazing number of people behind the scenes with brilliant minds that really laid out the groundwork and knew from day one where they wanted to take this, and everybody had the same goal in mind to when it was time to hit the ground running to go for it. So a lot of people wore a lot of hats. I wore many hats at one point, and we were all just really ready to conquer and create something that was a viable alternative in the wrestling space. And just watching some of the people that I've had the honor of watching and learning from lay this thing out from the very beginning, and then actually seeing it come to pass, but come to pass even faster than maybe any of us had ever realized. So it's just been a joy.
It has very much been a joy. And with that in mind, Gary Joe, I've got to cross over to you because I'm sure you've got some
Yeah.
questions to ask Mr. Mikey Rukus.
Yeah. Hey, Mikey, I just want to say, on behalf of many amazing AEW fans, we very much appreciate the most amazing theme songs that I've heard, God, probably in many, many years. Um, I gotta know, man, when you were coming up with one theme song, which is by far my favorite to date, the Rampage theme song has always stuck to me. How did, like, when you are processing and composing an amazing theme song like that, what is your surroundings? What is your thought process going into a theme song?
So I will say this: the Rampage theme was actually done outside of the company. That was
Oh,
something that was put together from Warner Brothers. They actually had that brought in. But just to your point, anytime there's theme music that has to be created, whether it's for Dynamite or Collision or for a particular entrance, you really want to lean on your team and what the vision, the overall vision is. So I may have some ideas, but I always want to check with the people on the team to see what they're thinking. Because a lot of times, if they have specific things in mind of what they're envisioning, if you just kind of drop them, hey, I think this works, they may not necessarily see it until everybody talks it out. You know what I mean? So it's always best to kind of get some ideas from the team itself, and then you have kind of like a working like a storyboard, like an audio storyboard to go from, and then just kind of build on that. Just for instance, with AEW Dynamite theme pop, we wanted to kind of take it to a different level from the Dynamite theme, which was 100% on the nose, light the boom, lit the fuse, Dynamite, things like that. We wanted to take it more into a live feel of like, what is the one thing we all do when our favorite wrestler comes out? There's a pop, right? Yeah. So, but at the same sense, the talent themselves, it's a pop for them when they get out. So it's like this synergy from the crowd to the talent. And when they step on the stage, we all pop. So we kind of took it from that vibe and just kind of livened it up a little bit, and not necessarily being so on the nose. And that was something that we had discussed. I discussed it with Koshe Irby and Mike Mansory, and we kind of bounced around some ideas and just kind of wanted to go in with that full live feel where it's not just the fans watching the wrestlers, it's all of us enjoying this moment together.
The interesting thing about the Mikey, when you're talking about making music for a wrestler or a character to portray, what are the fundamentals that go into that? Because they always say that the theme song kind of, in a lot of ways, makes the person. Like, if you've got that theme song when a music, like when the bit of the MJF music comes on, and you just kind of know, and it kind of plays really well to the person that he's coming out to be. What is the origins and what are the fundamentals that go into all of that?
So it's kind of a double-edged sword, right? Originally, people always think, well, it has to be instantly recognizable. It has to be something that people know. And in order for that to happen, there's multiple things. So you have to have a great track. You have to have a great talent that can really carry the persona. And you have to have time. You have to have screen time. And there has to be time for the music to bake into the fan base. So it's like the first time you heard, like for MJF, it's just a song. But fast forward 5 years, when he's like the dirtiest player in the game, like you're gonna get that. It took time to build to that point. So we think about different ideas in terms of like opening stings. Do we want the intro to drag out? We don't really have a lot of time for like intros themselves. Our full entrances are right around a minute or so, a little bit less, a little bit more. So we try to get the music kicking in within the first 7 or 8 seconds. In some instances, it's a little bit longer, but in many instances, you have that opening window, and then you have the theme. And that's just the way our TV is produced today. So you work within those elements, and you really have to rely on all of the elements coming together with the great talent, great track, and then screen time. So for me, I think the most important thing about making it something that's instantly recognizable isn't necessarily like mapping it out A to Z, like this is going to be what really goes over. It's just about telling the story for that individual talent, giving that talent the opportunity to embrace it, and then giving the fan base the time to consume it and make it a part of them to where they anticipate it.
Yeah, because it's quite interesting when a theme song changes, or when you change a theme song for somebody that.
Adam, you're muted, I think.
Am I? No, I think I'm all right. It kind of when a theme song changes, or you change a theme song for somebody, that makes a big difference, because we're so used to hearing another song, and then all of a sudden this other music plays. How important is it that you get that sort of timing right when it's time for a new theme song? How do you know that it's time for a wrestler's song to jazz up a little bit or to go down a little bit?
It's a lot of it's case by case. We have requests to change things all the time, and thank goodness we have some elders that understand the longevity of a track, and sometimes it works. Sometimes it's better to keep it the same. But in those instances where it does change, it's usually a storyline piece,
Mhm.
or it's usually a character like a fresh coat of paint, so to speak. And what I try to do is incorporate, as opposed to just doing something completely like off the wall, 180-degree turn. I like to do what you consider like turning the page. So it's like the next chapter. So you still hear familiarities from what their previous theme was, but it's the same person, just in a completely different vibe. Unless you're in a situation like where Tony Storm just goes crazy and she thinks she's in a movie. You know what I mean? So that's really the rare instance that there's a 180-degree turn. But to Tony Storm's credit, she has 1000% embraced that character. One of the most interesting and captivating characters on AEW TV, and especially in 2024. Yeah.
Without doubt, she's been, for me, she's been the character of 2024. It has been brilliant to watch the way that, as you say, the character has done a full 180. But I mean, Gary Joe, for someone over in the States that you've watched at AEW, it must be amazing just for you to see it as well, some of these character changes. But I'm sure you've got some more questions for Mikey. Now, I shouldn't take all the limelight from you here, man.
It's all right, Adam. Um, I'm there with you there, Mikey. I gotta say, like, I want to say I probably have 60, 70 AW theme songs, albums on my iPhone, and there's not a day that goes by. I at least have to pick a couple when I'm listening to every day. And it's funny that you're talking about transitioning when it comes to their characters for these different theme songs. I gotta compliment you where it's due, man, because when I hear the transition with Tony Storms, when I'm hearing that, it literally is timeless. Like, it is so perfect. It's well played. The MJF theme song that got introduced at All In last year, the Devil one, was probably one of my favorite ones that you've done. So let me ask you this there, Mikey. When Tony Khan brought you into AEW, who is the one that made that phone call? Because I gotta say, man, you are easily one of my favorite hires with this company. And I've been a content creator for AEW now for going on 5 years. And, I like to promote AEW heavily. And when I'm talking about some people that I like to promote within AEW, you are certainly one of them. So I just got to know who made that call so I can thank that person.
Yeah. First, I thank you so much for taking the time to listen and adding AEW music to your personal library. That's always been the goal after the fact. So after we tell the story, we want to make sure that the story remains with the fans and with people that follow AEW when the camera isn't on. So that's always been my goal since day one. And it just, for me, it draws the fans closer to the talent and just builds up more anticipation. So I very much appreciate that. I first saw Dustin Rhodes tweet out about how proud he was of his brother Cody and what he was about to do. And at this time, I had been writing entrance music for independent wrestlers between 2016 and 2018. I had transitioned away from the mixed martial arts industry and was doing indie wrestling themes. And I had close to 300 around that time between late 2015 into 2018, early 2019. And I was running a Dollar Tree at the same time, and I had 37 employees, had my own retail store that I was running, and still had a client list in my office. So it was 60 hours a week in my store, 30 hours a week in my office, and just kind of building close to burnout and not exactly knowing where this was heading, but just I at that point it was like we were running a machine. And I saw the tweet from Dustin, and I started to kind of poke around a little bit, and I was like, okay, so it looks like this is AEW. I said, well, this could be a real, like, an opportunity. So I put some feelers out, and I had a lot of people that I had worked with previously from different MMA organizations, UFC fighters, people from NBC Sports, a lot of people that spoke on my behalf and kind of spoke for me as to the work that I did. And I had my initial text actually was to QT. So I had Matt Sells, shout out Matt Sells. He will forever be the one guy that created that original connection. And maybe I can go one step further than that. There's a guy named Adam Vance that said, "Hey, get a hold of Matt Sells." So I hit up Matt Sells. I said, "Hey, Adam Vance says that you have a connection to somebody at AEW." And this is like January 2019, February 2019. So Matt Sells shows up like the little detective in the corner with no eyes and the hat and the cigarette. And he's like, "Take this number. take this number and call this guy." And so I called, it was QT. I texted him and we had an initial conversation. And then I actually shot a direct message to Brandy Rhodes on Instagram. So they both actually reached back out to me at the same time. My first official interview was with Brandy, and she said the one thing that she said, we've had a lot of people reach out about this position. And the one thing I will tell you is that we've never seen so many people in prominent positions in the sports industry speak on your behalf. Like nobody else has had that happen. So that really kind of perked our ears up. And we just had a conversation about the music, and I understood where it needed to be, and I understood what they were going to need going into this. Had a couple of conversations with QT again, and then the final call came from Chris Harrington, and it was probably 11 o'clock at night. I'm on the East Coast, and he calls me up. It's very, very low key individual. "Hey, Mikey, how you doing?" He's like, "Is this a good time, bad time?" I was like, "No, it's a good time." And I had just been sitting on the couch with my wife, and we were talking about the possibilities of what was going to happen here, because this was my opportunity to walk away from retail after being in retail management for 25 years. And he's like, "Just wanted to see what life is like for you right now." And I was like, I mean, it sucks, but like, I didn't go that far. I was like, "No, it's good." So he was like, we want to bring you on, and we'd like for you to be a part of the team. Like, we're really impressed with the body of work that you've done up to this point. We feel like you would be the guy." And I said, "Absolutely." And I walked into my living room and I looked at my wife and I was like, "We're in." And we stayed very quiet. I think by this time it was like April of 2019 or late March. And we stayed very quiet, signed my official deal May 1st of 2019, and have been with the company ever since. So tracing back to 23andMe, it's Adam Vance to Matt Sells to QT to Brandy to Chris Harrington.
Wow. And what a
That's
great,
quite the journey, man.
yeah, that is a journey, but we have to thank each and every one of those for making that possible. But Mike, as we start to wrap up things now, I have to ask, of all of the musics that you've done in AEW, whose is your favorite?
I have very many for different reasons. The Adam Cole theme is very special to me. I know that he and I were actually in talks leading up to his debut, and it was like maybe 2 or 3 days before he debuted, and I was set to get on a plane to fly out to Chicago. So I got his theme done the day before I flew out to Chicago for All Out for his debut, and that was the same night that I performed the Lucha Brothers entrance live as well. So all of these things were kind of happening at the same time. So that was a very special moment in time, the way everything kind of pulled together. I'm very happy with the Tony Storm theme, the Somewhere in a Dream, just because it's something that I hadn't really delved into before. Like, the vision was, this is Tony looking through a garage, and she finds an old album that she's playing on a record player that's like just covered in dust and warped and everything like that. So we needed to sound classical, but we needed to sound a little bit kind of zany and maniacal, like the notes stepping on each other and stuff like that. So I really enjoyed that one. The most recent one for Claudio, which is an amalgamation of Moonlight Sonata and 1812 Overture. So it's like he wanted the Moonlight Sonata changeover with the BCC, but I just kind of had the idea of incorporating like a heel 1812 into it as at the same time, and he loved it. And just being able to take two classical songs like that and put them together hadn't been done before in wrestling, and really proud of that. Really proud of the way it sounds. And I never rest on a specific theme. I listen to it when I'm done with it, probably about 50 or 60 times. I listen to it in different areas. I'll play it from my system, and then I'll go walk off to the side to see what it sounds like on the side, in the car, on the phone, on the laptop, all of these things. And then I move on to the next. So I because there's so much going on and there's so many things that are turning, and the job never stops. So I just keep on going.
Well, you do an incredible job, Mikey, and we can't wait to hear some more. But we obviously have to wrap it up now. But don't forget, everybody, Full Gear, 23rd of November, 2024, of course. Not the last show of the year. Obviously, World's End comes up just before that. Over here in the UK, you can watch AEW on ITV4. Dynamite will happen actually tomorrow night on ITV4. So don't forget to check that out. A lot of stuff goes on Dynamite this week, everyone. You do not want to miss Dynamite this week over here in the UK. Trust me. Gary Joe, do you want to quickly just run down the AEW listings over in the good old US of A, please?
What was that? I'm sorry.
Can you just run out how you can get and watch AEW over in the States?
Oh yeah. Here at the States, there's great ways to watch it, and that is certainly, TBS or TNT. I will say this: when the transition happens to Max, I mean, all of us AEW fans, gearheads, are going to be one happy sickos. So, Mikey, on behalf of myself and Adam, you can certainly thank Sir Tony Khan for that. I can't thank this company enough, man. It has brought so much happiness to my life, and it's such a good time, man. And I'm so excited for this roller coaster.
Hey, likewise, man. We're all just human beings, and we love telling stories, and it's an honor to be a part of telling stories and sharing these moments in wrestling history together. That's the way I always look at it. It's always a time to just to not even think about like the negativity or any of the side stuff that happens, conversations and analytics that happens on the side, but just enjoying in the moment and sharing with each other this thing that we love. It's wrestling, and we love it from all different corners for all different reasons. We find the things that make us happy and give us an escape from the real world around us, and it's an honor to be a part of it.
Exactly that. And that is a fantastic way to end the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. Big thanks to everyone at AEW for making this happen. Huge thanks to Mikey Rukus for coming on and spending some time with us. But for me, Adam Cousins, that has been Gary Joe. That has been Mikey Rukus. You have been watching AEW on the Hitting the Turnbuckle podcast. And until next time, everybody, buckle down, stay safe, and goodbye.